Hey guys, this is Claudia of the Alexandrite system. Today we're going to be talking about what's probably the first positive piece of DID media that we ever saw. It's a comic known as Secondhand Soup. Secondhand Soup is a 2018 webcomic by Kiernan and Sjursen-Lien about three queer young adults living together in urban California. Its three main characters, Sydney, a trans woman, Cam, a gay cis man, and Bailey, a non-binary person, spend their time hanging out with and supporting each other while discussing their art careers and the woes that come with it, and going to side jobs that they hate. Today we're going to mostly be focusing on Bailey, because Bailey, much like the creator of this webcomic, has DID. While Bailey's DID is an important part of their character, it's not a main focus in the comic. However, when it is directly talked about, it is one of the most honest portrayals of day-to-day life with DID. Recently, Saunders sat down with Kiernan and Sjursen-Lien to talk about their work. So welcome to another installment of System. Alright, so would you like to start out by introducing yourself?
Sure. My name is Kiernan Sjursen-Lien. I am a trans artist with DID working in animation and comics. I work at Nickelodeon currently on The Loud House, and I've worked on tons of comics from Over the Garden Wall to Adventure Time to Amazing World of Gumball. So I do a lot of stuff for children's media, and yeah, and on my own personal work, I like to talk about mental health and trans issues a lot.
You recently posted a comic about being trans and being a system.
Yes.
Um, I was wondering your thoughts on whether there is sort of an inherent connection between being trans and being a system.
So this is something I have spent way too much uh, agonizingly thinking about, just because it's been such a strange journey for us to deal with our transness and our DID because my alter who was host at the time before we knew we had DID started transitioning us. And then it was a big surprise once we got the DID diagnosis, and one of our female alters came back after a while, and she was just like, "This is not cool." So she had to like figure out how to deal with like the new dysphoria that came with us transitioning. So I definitely think there's a little bit of, I mean, our existence is very transitional, I think, having DID. So there's a connection there.
Yeah, I really do agree with that. We had a really similar experience where we started transitioning before finding out about DID.
Hmm.
And one of our men in the system came back after like 9 years. And the first time he fronted, we were like wearing a dress.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, I know that feeling exactly.
Several members in your system do art for you guys. Do you feel that your guys' art is more individual or collaborative?
It's definitely a solid mix of both, and it has to be. We definitely have our own personal styles, and I don't know if you know what they are, but we all definitely have like our very own styles. We all have, or not all of us, but many of us have different art accounts online. We just don't say it's us necessarily. So there's a lot of keeping things separate in that way. So we all have our own styles, but when we're working in animation and comics, we have to be able to adapt and collaborate. Otherwise, we've had it happen before where we were sitting there at work and it's just all of a sudden like, dang it, I don't know how to do this anymore. This is not my job. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh no. So we've had to slowly figure out how to deal with those times and be able to be like, okay, we can borrow skills. We can try and figure out that other people might be a better for fronting right now and things like that.
Do you find that happens less frequently as you go on? Like those situations where it's like, I don't know how to do this?
It's definitely been less frequent since I was first diagnosed. Definitely like very less frequent, but it still happens every so often. And we also, something frustrating that we've dealt with, which I think is in a similar boat, is every time we have a host change, and we tend to have them every couple of years or so, we lose our artistic ability and have to start
Really?
over. At least a little bit. So, like, if some people who might have followed art noticed like a couple of years ago there was a hard shift between like a lot of like woodsy palettes and things like that into like pastels and very simple drawings.
Mhm.
And it was because we kind of forgot how to do everything we learned until that point, and it took a couple of months to be able to get it back and be like, okay, I think we got this again.
That's really interesting to me. Is it the same when switching between two, like one host to another host, and they've both already like had artistic skills in the past?
It's usually much like less bad at that time because we had a somewhat of a host shift recently, and luckily it was someone who had done art before, so they were able to snap back to it. It was just sort of like shaking off the rust
Mhm.
as opposed to learning a new skill. So definitely.
So let's talk about secondhand soup.
Yes, and
So
I see your pen too.
yes, yeah, I figured I might as well like fully geek out today.
No, I love it. It's super great.
Bailey in Secondhand Soup
Hmm.
has the ID. The first comic where you talk about it, it was pretty early on, and you said that you were hesitant to get into these themes so early. What propelled these themes to the front so quickly?
Well, I'll first tell you a story about why I called it secondhand soup, and that's because I consider it my own reflection on the soup of the day, which is my own way of calling whatever I'm dealing with today. So, secondhand soup is just sort of me regurgitating what I'm feeling in that moment, just in a different story with different characters. So I was dealing with having DID is the honest answer, and it just like was in my head, so I wanted to make a comic about it.
So that's what made you want to make having DID part of Bailey's character?
Yeah, just because it's part of my character, I guess you could say.
Why Bailey in particular for someone with DID? Why not Cam or Sydney or someone else?
Well, I think Bailey is who I identify with the most. I definitely identify with all of them to some extent. But I would say Cam and Sydney are more based on my friends than they are based on me. And Bailey definitely comes more from a place in my heart where I just want someone like me to be able to have positive experiences with people discovering their DID and things like that. So that was sort of part of the reason.
Do Cam and Sydney know that Bailey has DID?
Yes, they both do.
How do they feel about it? I know this isn't really addressed so much in the comics.
It isn't addressed so much, and it's because I have had less luck. Not recently, but definitely when I first got DID, I didn't have a lot of roommates that really understood what I was going through, and honestly, it was kind of a hostile environment for a while.
Ugh.
So when I made Secondhand Soup, it was my first like stable roommate situation. And I was just like, oh, wait, people can be like totally supportive of this. I just like didn't consider that for some reason. And like, I was like, okay, then I want to show people supporting it. Cause like, if I was looking for DID comics at the time and was trying to find them, I would want to be able to see people responding to a person with DID in a not necessarily even a positive manner, but like an okay manner.
I find that so much DID media is just suffering.
It's
And
either suffering or like or what let's see what do I want to call it? It's just sort of like it's definitely a romanticization of trauma in a
mm,
really and mental illness in a way that's like kind of uncomfy. It's sort of like when how I feel when I'm in a support group and someone comes in just because they're curious. It's sort of like, that's not super great. I kind of wish you had more different motives, like wanting to meet people.
I really empathize with that because like with like a DID YouTube channel, you get a certain amount of singlets who are just like, oh, I'm really like I don't know, I guess like fascinated by this
Yeah.
is the term. It's always like,
I know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know that feeling for sure. But at the same time, it's better than outright hatred, I guess, because at least they are looking to learn. It just would like to tone it down a little bit.
yeah, I definitely feel there is such a thing as being like too supportive, if that makes sense.
I mean, it's the same with trans stuff, honestly,
Yeah,
you know.
there's no way to like super explain it, but it's like, calm down.
You know it when you see it, and it's definitely like, it's okay. Just calm down. Calm down.
So in the back of the first issue, you have a little profile for Bailey. Each
Mhm.
of the issues has a profile for a different roommate. And in this one, you actually listed some of the alters in Bailey's system. I was wondering what was the inspiration for some of these designs and character traits of them, because in particular, the thing that really fascinates me are the two different designs of like a white cat with several eyes.
I like honestly, those were a little old, and I haven't really thought about them in a while. But the white cat with two eyes is sort of like based a little bit on my own system, which has like some animal parts that are more like wise parts, I guess, that like talk us down when we start to get a little too deep in the trauma or anything like that. They're usually out there to be like, hey, you need to chill out. And that's sort of the inspiration for them for Bailey as well.
This is an odd one, but in
Okay.
a more recent comic, there was one where Bailey takes a bath and then says that they're no longer a shower gay, they're a bath gay.
Yes.
I was just curious if you were a shower gay or a bath gay.
I am a both gay. Shower is more convenient, but baths are pretty rad. Can't say no to a good bath.
Yeah, we recently kind of got into like Lush and stuff.
Oh yeah. Once you
Yeah.
go to the bath bomb route, you become a bath gay. That's how it starts.
And my last two questions here are ones I ask everyone who comes on. So, if you could vanish one piece of DID or general system related media out of existence, what would it be and why?
See, I'm gonna give you the same answer probably everyone gives you, and but I do have a reason why, and it's Split, and I hate it for because a lot of my friends were like way too okay with it, and I was just like, hey, this like is monstrous towards me, and they were like, oh, but we know you aren't a monster, and I was like, yeah, but you see, anyway, what the like biggest thing that I think I hate about Split is that it tells you a lot about DID. It just uses it in like really insidious ways. Like you can tell they did their research. I feel like I remember hearing a NPR interview with someone who was interviewed by M. Night to learn about DID for the movie, and she was like, "Hey, I'm gonna do this for you, but I'm not gonna like let you do it. Like, make this a horror character. If you do this, then can you please make them respectful?" And he promised to, and obviously that didn't happen. He used like every little thing as like an interesting character horror trope, which I hate so much. So I just find the fact that they did their research and they still chose to demonize some like these people who have gone through like hell and back.
Hmm.
That just infuriates me. So it's gonna be Split.
God, so much about Split is just so much. I know that
So
James
nasty.
McAvoy said that he like watched DID YouTube channels to like kind of get into how it looks and like the mindset of it and stuff.
Yeah, there's just it's just so slimy to me doing that and choosing to show it. And I love horror. I adore horror. I hate that horror makes me a monster over and over and over again. It's like one of my favorite genres, and it's always disappointing because you never know when it's going to come up. Because
Hmm.
I deal with some psychosis too, so there's always like the psychotic character, and it's just like random in like a completely random movie like Bird Box or whatever, they'll just like slam it in there and be like, ah, let's kill this guy. And I'm like, cool, thanks. I was having fun until this.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's
And
crazy. It's
they
crazy, pardon my pun.
I find they so often use it as like a twist, and it's like I would almost like respect it a little more if you were like upfront with it about
Well,
it.
yeah, because it's like I'm as a writer, it's lazy writing. Like
Hmm.
flat out, it's lazy. It's choosing it's basically being like he's a giant spider. Be scared because everyone's scared of spiders, right? And it just makes no sense to me. I feel like we should have progressed past this by now, but it's hard. I mean, I guess that's why I want to be so open about my DID is because I want the people around me in the entertainment industry to be like, hey, this is a normal person who hasn't murdered anyone. And I'm hoping like just being open about that, especially in entertainment, helps there be less bad things.
Back to Split for a moment. There are like several like really particular things that irk me about Split.
Go for it.
Like,
I could talk all day about how much I am irked by Split.
hell yeah. One of them is that the little in their system is part of like the group that like kidnaps people and feeds them to the cannibal one. And it's like something about that really just does not sit well with me.
It's just, again, it's taking a real thing about DID and turning it until it's a twisted, weird horror trope instead of an actual alter part. It doesn't feel right. There's something wrong there because it's not coming from an honest place. It's coming from a place of harm, honestly, in my opinion.
It's like subtly, or maybe not so subtly, transphobic too.
Yeah, no, totally. I think so. I thought that when I watched it too. I didn't. I wish I didn't watch it, but it was like people were like, you haven't even seen the movie and you're shit talking it." I was like, okay, I'm gonna see the movie, and now I can tell them exactly why I hate it.
The transphobia, it's like this is the one like assigned male at birth system that we see in like DID media, and
Yeah,
it's the horror one.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, I mean, obviously, showing the character as a horror character is it's gonna be transphobic because you're making a monster out of a different gender expression, and that's just bad. It's just bad.
It's like really what is the difference between um whatever the guy's name from Split was. I don't know,
I
Mr. Split
Yeah, Mr. Split.
and like I don't know, Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah,
It's ludicrous.
it's absolutely ludicrous. I'm glad that people have been like slowly, at least from what I've seen, been more like, okay, wait, actually, Split isn't good. But unfortunately, it still isn't because it is a monstrous piece of media that hurts people as much as it's just people don't like M. Night Shyamalan.
So my last question is, do you have anything to say to other systems out there?
It's hard because systems are so individual.
Hmm.
I guess what I would say is we go, we deal with so much horrible feelings, and it's so hard sometimes. It doesn't feel like you can keep going. And from my experience, just keep going. And if you feel disrespected, demand that respect. I had to demand the respect because I got outed by someone else.
Hmm.
So for me, it's just like if you're not getting that respect, you need to demand it. And if that doesn't pan out, you need to like find a good place to like find your respect. Even if it's online, just finding a community that respects you and loves you for who you are. It loves you despite all the trauma, despite anything like that, because there are people out there that will love you unconditionally. It doesn't matter if you're a system, and you will be okay. Hopefully that wasn't too mushy.
All right, so that is pretty much it from me. Where can people find you online?
You can find me online by the username Zakeno, Zakeno, which was my Redwall fan character as a child. I'm that on basically everything, and you can also check out like my more like professional work on Kiernan-Sjursen-Lien.com. And that's pretty much where you can find me anywhere.
Thank you again to Kiernan, Sjursen-Lien for sitting down with us, and thank you all for watching. Have a nice day, guys.